Alcatraz has always been known as one of the most feared prisons in the United States. It was built on an isolated island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, surrounded by cold, rough waters and strong currents that made escape nearly impossible. Most people think of it as just a prison, a place where the most dangerous criminals were sent to be locked away forever. But what if that's not the full story? What if Alcatraz was hiding something even darker, something that goes far beyond its role as a prison? What if, deep beneath the old stone walls and metal bars, there was a secret that has been hidden for decades, a secret tied to secret missions, government experiments, and shadowy operations no one was ever supposed to find? This strange story begins with what seemed like a normal day. Tourists filled the site, taking pictures, walking through old cells, and listening to stories about former inmates. The wind over San Francisco Bay was cold and wild, just like it had been for generations. On the surface, everything seemed calm and normal. But far from the eyes of visitors, deep within the old prison structure, workers were preparing for something different. A new museum expansion was in the works, and construction teams had started breaking through walls and exploring sealed-off areas to make room for new displays. No one expected anything unusual, until one of the workers noticed something strange, a wall that didn't match the original prison plans. At first, it seemed like a mistake. Maybe it was just an old maintenance tunnel or an abandoned sewage line. But the bricks didn't match the ones used in the 1930s when the federal prison was built. The cement was different too, and when a few loose rocks were moved, the team discovered a small opening hidden behind the wall. Inside that hole was a dark, narrow tunnel stretching deep into the unknown. No records, blueprints, or maps ever mentioned this passage. Even the most detailed jail records had nothing about it. The air inside was cold and still. There were no signs of life, no light, no movement, just a long, silent stretch of darkness that had been kept secret for what felt like forever. The discovery was quickly reported, and the FBI took control of the site. Agents arrived, sealing off the area and beginning a detailed investigation. They knew this wasn't just an ordinary tunnel. It was too carefully constructed. The walls were reinforced with steel brackets. The pathway had sharp turns and narrow bends designed to confuse or hide movement. It was clear that this wasn't built by accident. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure this tunnel remained hidden. But the biggest question was why? As the investigation continued, things became even stranger. The tunnel ended at a heavy iron door that had been sealed tight. The hinges were hidden beneath packed stone, and although the door was rusted, it remained strong. The agents who stood before it felt a strange uneasiness, as if they were about to uncover something they were never meant to see. When the door was finally opened, it led to a small chamber that looked nothing like the rest of Alcatraz. The walls were not made from the same prison material. The air was stale, and the silence inside was thick, almost like it was holding onto a memory. Experts who examined the room quickly realized that it had not been built in the 1930s or 1940s, like the rest of the prison. In fact, the steel used in the walls had markings that dated back to the 1920s. This meant the tunnel might have been built even before Alcatraz became a federal prison. But why would someone build a tunnel like this before the prison officially opened? And more importantly, who did it? There were no escape records mentioning such a tunnel, not even in the famous 1962 escape by Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. That escape involved a different route, and this tunnel wasn't connected to any known part of the prison. It had been completely hidden. Even prisoners who spent decades at Alcatraz never spoke of it. This was something else entirely, something darker and more organized. Inside the chamber, the walls were lined with stones and packed mud, possibly to muffle sound. Whoever built it was skilled. This wasn't the work of a single person working in secret. It had been planned with care, using tools and resources not easily found on a prison island. The craftsmanship pointed to a team with experience and a purpose. But what was that purpose? From its location on the island, the chamber had a clear view, if monitored correctly, of naval bases, shipping lanes, and city movements. If built before 1934, it could have been used for surveillance or early intelligence gathering. Some National Archives documents mentioned private building activity on Alcatraz in the 1920s, but those references were vague. Could it be that this hidden tunnel was created by a government agency before the prison was even active? Theories began to form. Maybe the tunnel wasn't meant to help people escape. Maybe it was built to hide people or store secrets. Some began to wonder if the chamber had been used to smuggle weapons, intelligence files, or even people. The layout wasn't random, it followed a clear path. The structure was solid, the cuts were exact, and the walls were sealed tightly. Everything suggested that whoever built this place had a reason, and they knew exactly what they were doing. As the investigation continued, the FBI found no signs that anyone had entered the tunnel in decades. There were no footprints, no fingerprints, no disturbances. It was as if the room had been frozen in time. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered in the air. Inside the chamber, they found boxes old, dusty, and falling apart. Inside those boxes were faded documents, maps of the San Francisco Bay, and what looked like an abandoned radio communication system. It wasn't modern, but it wasn't from the 1930s either. 3 old cots were found in one corner of the room, each carefully set up as if someone had lived there. Blankets were folded neatly, and the beds were arranged with care. This wasn't a place thrown together quickly, it had been used for a long time. Maybe weeks, maybe even months. The clocks on the wall were stuck at 2:17 a.m., their hands frozen in time and covered with dust. Why that specific time? Was it meant to send a message, or was it just a coincidence? One FBI agent later wrote in a classified report that he believed the room had been set up for a reason. He said it felt like they were waiting for someone. That haunting idea refused to leave the minds of the agents who had seen it. Who were they waiting for? Why build something so elaborate, then seal it up and leave? As more information came to light, theories about Cold War activities began to take shape. It was the perfect time for secret government operations. The location of Alcatraz was ideal. Hidden from the public, surrounded by water, and already used as a prison, it was the perfect cover for something deeper. Maybe the room was a command center used for spying, or maybe it had been a temporary base for agents passing through the West Coast. Soon, the forensic team found something even more shocking: encryption tools from the 1960s, similar to ones used by the CIA. This suggested that the room had been used for secret communications during the Cold War. But if that was the case, then why was nothing ever recorded? Why were these tools left behind? And who exactly used them? Some started to believe that prisoners may have unknowingly helped build the tunnel or maintain it. Others believed the government used the prison's remote location to store or protect classified materials. But the real question was, who was truly in charge of this hidden space? Was it the US government? The military? Or was it something more secret, something operating outside official authority? Digging deeper into old records, researchers found something unexpected: references to a hidden program known as Project Warden Shadow. This program, buried in decades-old government documents, hinted at a secret collaboration between the Department of Justice and the CIA. Its goal was not only to control high-risk inmates but also to use the prison as a front for intelligence operations. Could the secret tunnel be a part of this? Was it built to support secret missions, to hide spies, or to store sensitive equipment? Project Warden Shadow became the center of growing speculation. The more people looked into it, the stranger things became. The documents suggested that Alcatraz had been more than just a prison, it was a testing ground, a hidden facility for activities that had nothing to do with law enforcement. People began to ask, were experiments conducted here? Was this room used to hold secret meetings or interrogations? And if so, who were the targets? The secret tunnel beneath Alcatraz challenged everything we thought we knew about the island. It revealed a layer of history that had been hidden from the public, possibly on purpose. Whatever the truth may be, one thing became clear: Alcatraz was not just a place where criminals were locked up. It was also a place of secrets, shadows, and mysteries that still haven't been fully uncovered. Years later, researchers are still trying to put together the pieces. Who built the tunnel? Who lived in that chamber? What secrets were passed through those encrypted messages? And most importantly, how much of this story was intentionally buried? Some believe the answers lie in the old files still locked away in government archives. Others think the truth will never be revealed because it's too dangerous. But the discovery of the tunnel changed everything. It showed that history is not always what it seems. Behind the tourist brochures, the prison tours, and the legends of daring escapes, there may be something much deeper hiding beneath Alcatraz. Something that could change the way we look at the past forever. Most people think Alcatraz was just a high-security prison built to keep the most dangerous criminals locked away on a lonely island. But over the years, shocking new information has surfaced that completely changes that story. Alcatraz might have been more than just a jail. Secret government documents that were once hidden from the public have now been released, and they suggest that something much darker was happening on the island. Instead of just keeping criminals behind bars, the prison may have been part of secret government experiments and hidden operations during a tense time in American history. Some of these declassified documents reveal that inmates at Alcatraz were subjected to psychological torture. They were unknowingly used in secret studies to test their mental strength and reactions to stress. Some were thought to be connected to organized crime, and these prisoners were observed more closely. Officials collected information from them, perhaps hoping to find ways to break criminal networks. But the most disturbing part of this story isn't just what was done to the inmates, it's where it all happened. Alcatraz wasn't just chosen for its isolation. It turns out that the island's location was strategically important. It sat just off the coast of San Francisco, near key naval lines and military routes. Being separate from the mainland but still close to important military activity made it a perfect place for the government to run hidden projects. For a long time, people believed that Alcatraz was just a remote prison that held dangerous men. But what if those prisoners never even realized they were part of something bigger, part of a secret plan involving the US government? One theory is that the FBI and other government agencies may have created a hidden tunnel underneath the prison. This tunnel might not have been used for escapes or moving prisoners around. Instead, it may have been built for emergency situations like a national disaster or as part of something called Project Warden Shadow, a secret government plan. If the tunnel really was connected to this mysterious project, it would explain why it was so well hidden and never used in known escape attempts. In fact, it might have been used to help important people escape the island quickly without anyone noticing. This tunnel raises even more questions when we look at one of the most famous events in Alcatraz's history, the 1962 escape attempt by Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. Many believe that the three men escaped by climbing through a hole in their cells, making their way through utility corridors, and then using a homemade raft built from raincoats to cross the dangerous San Francisco Bay. But what if they didn't take that risky route at all? What if they knew about the secret tunnel? New evidence suggests that their escape might not have been as reckless or random as we once thought. It's possible that they used a secret path, one that not even the guards knew about. Some retired guards who worked at Alcatraz in the 1950s and 60s have shared strange memories. During their night shifts, they often heard strange sounds coming from beneath the prison floor. Some prisoners even complained about hearing things that didn't sound like normal prison activity. One guard remembered a conversation he had with a superior, who warned him never to ask questions about what was under Laundry Block C. That warning stuck with him for decades, especially as more evidence came to light. What could be buried under that building? Could there be hidden rooms, secret machinery, or even stored evidence of top-secret experiments? Alcatraz's history begins to look very different when you consider that a whole underground operation may have taken place without the knowledge of most prison staff. If Project Warden Shadow was real, it would explain why the tunnel was kept secret for so long. The size and planning of the structure suggest that it wasn't built just for an emergency exit, it could have been used for covert activities, perhaps even related to Cold War intelligence. Alcatraz's remote location made it ideal for experiments or secret missions where nobody would think to look. But the tunnel itself brings up even more mysterious questions. Was it built all at once for a specific mission, or was it slowly expanded over time for different hidden goals? Was it meant to be an emergency exit, a control room, or something else entirely? Whatever its purpose, it now adds another layer of mystery to the Alcatraz escape story. Many people now wonder, could Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers have known about the tunnel and used it instead of the raft? Did they discover a hidden door or a secret passage while exploring the prison? Did their knowledge of the prison layout allow them to find something nobody else had? These questions change the escape story from a daring act of desperation to a possible government cover-up or experiment. Alan West, the fourth man involved in the 1962 escape plot, was left behind. Some think this might not have been an accident. Maybe the others didn't trust him. Maybe he didn't know about the tunnel, or perhaps they didn't tell him because they thought he couldn't keep it a secret. West had a reputation for being unpredictable and wild. If Morris and the Anglins were working on a bigger plan, they may have excluded him on purpose. After the escape, Morris and the Anglin brothers were never found. But in recent years, a hidden tunnel was discovered, buried under the rocky cliffs of the island. Technical experts examined it and found that it led away from the prison and under the shore, hidden from the view of the Coast Guards. This secret exit would have allowed anyone using it to escape unnoticed and avoid the deadly waters of the bay. The bay's water is freezing cold and filled with strong currents. Trying to cross it on a flimsy raft was almost a suicide mission. But if the tunnel led safely off the island, it might have given the escapees a real chance of surviving. Suddenly, that famous letter sent in 2013, allegedly written by John Anglin, makes more sense. In it, the writer says, "We made it that night, but barely." For years, people thought he meant they barely survived the bay crossing. But maybe he meant something else. Maybe he was talking about surviving a hidden tunnel route, one that has now been discovered. Could it be that Morris and the Anglins were part of a secret test? Were they placed in the prison on purpose to see how escape could be achieved? Could this have been a mission to study how people behave under extreme stress, or a way to test the prison's weaknesses for future covert use? Some believe the whole event was orchestrated as a larger plan. Adding to the mystery, a human skeleton was found in the newly discovered tunnel. Alongside the bones were a ruined purse, a collection of 1961 coins, old maps, and other documents that had been damaged by water. The coins were clean, suggesting they had been carefully kept, not lost or forgotten. Some believe these items were meant to be used after an escape, perhaps to start a new life in hiding. The skeleton, however, didn't match the identity of any known escapee. That made things even more confusing. Was this person a fourth escapee? Someone left behind? Or someone else entirely, maybe an accomplice or a secret agent who got trapped and died underground? On the walls near the body, terrifying scratch marks were found. Someone had written, "They left me here," which made the entire discovery feel even more tragic. Was this person left behind during an escape attempt? Were they part of the plan but then abandoned? These haunting words tell a story of fear, betrayal, and suffering. This mysterious individual and the items found with them have made people question everything they thought they knew about Alcatraz. Were the maps and coins meant to be used in a planned getaway? Were they planted for someone to find? Or were they part of a larger, more complicated escape plan that involved multiple people, maybe even people from outside the prison? Some even wonder if the person who died in the tunnel had connections to the CIA or the intelligence community. Could a spy or secret operative have been hiding under Alcatraz? Was this person helping Morris and the Anglins escape, only to get caught or trapped in the process? Even more disturbing are the rumors that Morris himself may have been a spy. Some believe he wasn't arrested simply for breaking the law, but because he had secret knowledge or had done something the government wanted to keep quiet. Maybe the entire prison sentence and escape were part of an intelligence operation. Maybe they were testing how well someone could survive, escape, and disappear. After the skeleton was found, an old FBI report from 1995 was also released. It says that the tunnel under Alcatraz had been used for multiple things over many years, some of which are still not fully understood. This adds more confusion to the island's purpose. Was Alcatraz a laboratory? A spy base? A Cold War experiment? These newly uncovered documents suggest that the island was more than just a prison. During the Cold War, it may have been used to run secret research and experiments on prisoners like stress tests, solitary confinement, and psychological studies. Hidden equipment was used to monitor inmates without them knowing. This points to something much larger happening beneath the surface. As more people learn about this, Theories are spreading online. Was the 1962 escape an actual escape, or was it a staged experiment? Was the government watching to see how far the men could go before being caught? Or were they helping them escape all along? Some now believe that Morris and the Anglins were part of a larger intelligence mission. The money they stole may not have been used for a new life, it may have been government funds used in secret operations. If so, the escape wasn't just about running away from prison, it was part of a bigger plan. Even now, the U.S. Marshals Service is still searching for the escapees, decades later. They've released updated images showing what the men might look like today, assuming they're still alive. But they haven't found any trace of them. With every new clue, the story of Alcatraz changes. It's no longer just about keeping criminals behind bars. More and more evidence points to the idea that Alcatraz was a center for hidden government activities. Experiments, intelligence missions, and escape plans were possibly all part of what went on there. And so, we're left wondering, was Alcatraz ever just a prison? Or was it always part of something much bigger, darker, and more secret than anyone ever imagined?